SecureOurStory.org to learn more and join us in keeping our nation's legacy. Together, we can ensure our history lives on.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to TechNet Augusta. Before we begin this morning's program, we have a few administrative announcements. Questions in the main program sessions here in the Oglethorpe Ballroom will be taken electronically. You may email or text your questions to askmetna@gmail.com. Questions in the track and theater sessions will be taken from audience microphones. Wi-Fi is available to TechNet Augusta attendees. The SSID and password are currently displayed on the screens, and you may also find them in the show guide, which you can download from the conference website. Signal, AFCEA International's official media, is providing daily news coverage of TechNet Augusta. Go to www.afcea.org/signalmedia or visit the URL on the slide for this reporting, as well as a lot of other valuable content. Additionally, recordings and presentations from the week's sessions that are authorized for release will be available post-event on the AFCEA website. AFCEA is pleased to offer more than 40 sessions this week that are approved for continuing education, and we encourage everyone to attend them. Please note that AFCEA members may receive attendance documentation for CompTIA continuing education units, GIAC continuing professional education credits, CertNexus continuing education credits, and/or acquisition training requirements by attending and getting their event badge scanned at the close of each qualified session. If you're not a member, stop by the AFCEA booth number 123 to sign up today. For those of you who aren't current members, a special on-site membership rate is available for new members. AFCEA would also like to thank our preferred providers, American Public University, Sands Institute, and Western Governors University, for bringing training and certification opportunities at affordable prices to our members. These higher educational institutions offer degrees and certificate programs with the flexibility of classroom and online study options. Please, at this time, if you have not taken a seat, please move to one now. Again, we have overflow space available on the Riverwalk. The program is about to begin. As a final note before we begin, AFCEA is grateful to TechNet Augusta's premier supporting partner, 10X National Security. We extend our thanks to 10X National Security and all of this week's supporting partners. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the national anthem. Please take your seats and welcome Chaplain Jonathan McPherson to the stage to provide the invocation for TechNet.
Pray with me. Almighty God, the one who reigns supreme and sovereign without equal or comparison, we humbly come to you today asking for wisdom and discernment. Give us wisdom to not just hear, but to think through the ideas of the speakers and help us to frame solutions to the complex present and future fight. As we consider the ends, ways, and means of establishing dominance on the battlefield, May we do so by being mindful of the service members, sailors, airmen, Marines, and guardians whom we will send to fight. Father, give us the intestinal fortitude to equip them with the very best chance to achieve overwhelming superiority and thereby the best chance to dominate and win. All this we ask in your name and for your glory. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage Brigadier General Paul Fredenberg, United States Army retired, Executive Vice President for National Security and Defense at AFCEA International.
All right, thank you, Chaplain. Appreciate that blessing today. And good morning, everybody. Oh, I don't know if you're ready for this event or not. I say good morning. Good morning. All right, that's much better. Hey, it's going to be a great week. And on behalf of Lieutenant General retired Susan Lawrence, AFCEA's President and CEO, welcome to the 13th TechNet Augusta. It's great to be here. Unfortunately and regrettably, Susan is not going to be able to join us this week. We all know how much of a superwoman that she is. And when she puts her mind to it, she can do just about anything. Well, Susan is still learning new things even today. And last week, she learned that she indeed cannot leap tall buildings in a single bound. So unfortunately, she had sustained a minor injury and is on strict orders not to travel. And so I will tell you, though, of all the conferences that we have in AFCEA, this is Susan's home. And she truly regrets not being able to be here with us this week. So we wish our absolute best and speedy recovery for her. But I know that we are all happy to be back here in Augusta once again, opening the lines of communication between the military, our commercial sector, providing space for government and industry professionals to discuss issues, share solutions, all surrounding cyber operations, electromagnetic warfare, signal operations, and information advantage. Cyber threats and capabilities absolutely underpin the importance of AFCEA's mission. And that mission is to bring our industry, our academia, our government, and our industry partners together in new and innovative ways to solve the people, the process, and the technology challenges that we face today. We are extremely grateful once again to be working with the U.S. Army Cyber Center of Excellence and the academic community right here in the greater Augusta area. Their input to the agenda and their participation are a key part in making this event relevant and in helping fulfill AFCEA's role as the association for professionals in the cyber, the IT, the communications, and the intelligence communities who want to serve those who serve. Now, I'd like to take just a few minutes as we kick off to thank a few of our teammates right here in the Augusta community and for their support in preparing for this event, especially, and right off the top, Major General Ryan Janovic, the Commanding General for U.S. Army Cyber Center of Excellence, and his team, Reggie Cook and Sergeant First Class Kelton Dunn out of the G357 office, and Rochelle Thomas and Demita Davis out of the Academic Engagement Office. I want to thank the Augusta Mayor, Garrett Johnson, and his team. I hope they'll be here in just a few minutes. And then I also want to thank the Augusta University President, Dr. Russell Keene, and his team as well. And lastly, here in the Augusta community, the Augusta Convention and Visitor Bureau. They are great partners here in the city of Augusta, and they're led by Benish Brown and Emin Johnson. Now, you probably also know that our local chapters are absolutely key to the success of all of our conferences, wherever they are. But I'd like to give a special thanks to the local team here, the Greater Augusta Chapter President, Eric Gladman, and some key volunteer coordinator, Amy Tushin. So if you see them, say thank you. The Atlanta AFCEA Chapter President, Paul Wirtz, and our continuing education session coordinator this week, Pat Harrington. Also want to give a shout out to our Augusta Regional Vice President, Bob Damon, for all the work that he does here in this region. And finally, to the great team and the great staff at the Augusta Marriott at the Convention Center right here. They have been phenomenal to help us make sure this event's successful. So please give a thank you to all of those individuals. Thank you very much. Now, our nation and our Army are facing head-on the many challenges for the future fight in the cyber domain, and we're doing that here this week. We've heard at many of our FC events that in the modern digital age, the government alone cannot secure and defend the nation. In our society, we know that partnerships, both abroad and at home, between government and the private sector are becoming increasingly more important every day. Partnerships and innovative relationships are the key. Only by working together can we move forward to achieve the velocity and the agility to outpace our adversaries, and to give our warfighters and decision makers the edge in the cyber domain. So for the next 3 days, we are going to explore non-kinetic dominance in multi-domain operations, an emphasis on the holistic cyber domain, including the aspects of procurement, training, manning, and equipping to build the effectiveness and the lethality required for the future fight. Now, in multi-domain operations, non-kinetic dominance is absolutely paramount to achieving superiority without resorting to traditional physical force. It involves leveraging cyber operations, signal operations, electromagnetic warfare, and information advantage to gain and maintain decision dominance while influencing, disrupting, or disabling adversary systems and decision-making processes. By achieving this information superiority, disrupting enemy networks, and shaping the narrative, friendly forces can gain a decisive advantage and potentially even deter conflict escalation. So for this year's TechNet Augusta, we have increased the content in cyber operations and electronic warfare, along with adding industry partners who provide capabilities in these specific areas. While still maintaining that critical engagement on signal operations, we have worked to create a balanced cyber event focused on the Army's future path forward to leverage full spectrum capabilities for the joint warfighters' operational advantage. Modern battlefields are no longer defined by the dominance of individual platforms or weapon systems, but by the resilience, by the adaptability of the networks and the data fabrics that connect them. So whether it's foundational principles of a unified network, next-gen C2, AI-enabled data centricity, information advantage, electromagnetic warfare, ubiquitous sensing, or continuous transformation, the goal is to create intuitive, trustworthy, adaptive systems that enable faster, more informed decisions and effects options. And that's what the team, that's what you are going to be doing this week. This event's going to allow for learning and collaboration on all of those topics. And in addition to the program scheduled here in the Marriott, we have a full complement of sessions over at the Georgia Cyber Center. And all of this can be found on your TechNet Augusta app. So download it and check it out and make sure that you are where it's most advantageous for you to be. In addition, all of this is going to be covered by Signal Media. This is AFCEA's very own official media outlet. We have our reporter, Evan Lynch, that's going to be here all week, plus a few other of our teammates, and they are going to help amplify your message. AFCEA is also pleased this week to offer over 40 sessions that have been approved for continuing education. And please note that AFCEA members can receive attendance documentation for their continuing education credits by attending these courses and then getting their badge scanned upon completion of each of the qualified sessions. And speaking about education, AFCEA remains absolutely dedicated to STEM education. Our educational foundation, which is another great arm of AFCEA, and our chapters worldwide have supported STEM education for more than 4 decades. We have awarded and currently award over $2 million each year in student and teacher scholarships and STEM teaching tools, something that AFCEA is very proud. And donations that we receive and part of the things that we do all go into that fund. And so now, before I introduce the next speaker, I also want you to understand and recognize that events like this cannot happen without industry. AFCEA and TechNet Augusta would like to acknowledge the over 300 exhibitors and supporting partners that have joined us here this week. So be sure to thank them when you're out on the exhibit floor and visiting our exhibit areas. And lastly, if you're not a member of AFCEA, and I do not know why you would not be, join today. Join this week. Visit booth 123. What's the number again? That's very easy to remember. We couldn't make it any more simpler than that. So get plugged into a phenomenal group of professionals. Get plugged into an information source. Get plugged into a place to further your career and the career of others. Get involved as a volunteer, a chapter leader, a mentor. Be an advocate for our mission and for our partners' missions. Join today. I guarantee you will not regret it. Now, it's an honor to have a close partnership with the City of Augusta and Augusta University, and we're grateful for their support of TechNet Augusta. And I need to send an audible because I don't see anybody here. Is there anybody here from the mayor's office? Okay, all right, so I'm going to, we may be able to provide them an opportunity later, but at this time, I would like to invite one of those partners up here, the Augusta University president, Dr. Russell Keene. Please welcome Dr. Keene to the stage for some comments. Thank you very much.
Well, I like the music. I didn't choose it, but I like that. Good morning. Well, I know our mayor's not with us or anyone from his office yet, but on behalf of the City of Augusta and the Augusta University, we want to welcome you to our wonderful city. Thank you to Lieutenant General Lawrence, our Major General Janovic, and certainly the mayor. Although he's not here, he's very supportive of this institution and TechNet. I'm Russell Keene. I have the pleasure of serving as Augusta University's president, and I'm proud to stand with all of you in this moment of collaboration, innovation, and resolve that can secure our shared future. TechNet Augusta reminds us that the lines between military and civilian sectors should be permeable in the right way, where ideas travel, standards rise, innovation thrives, and trust fuels progress. I'm reminded of when the Berlin Wall came down with Ronald Reagan's "It Can Be Done" creed. He refused to accept the barriers that many folks around him did and instead built bridges. And I think with that same "it can do" spirit is what makes this occasion so successful. At AU, partnerships continue to drive our $1.6 billion impact on the state of Georgia and our ever-increasing enrollment of over 12,000 students. Our university encompasses 11 colleges and schools, including the Medical College of Georgia, which is the fourth largest medical school in the country and is the 13th oldest in the nation. We are also home to the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center just down the Riverwalk here. It also sits on Augusta University's Riverfront campus. And through collaboration with industry partners, many of you in this room, academia and government, the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center offers the Department of Defense and industry partners a direct pipeline to a highly trained cyber workforce. It offers a state-owned cyber range for immersive, hands-on training. It offers advanced facilities supporting cutting-edge cybersecurity research. The Georgia Cyber Training and Innovation Center is more than just a training ground. It's a hub of innovation partners together in innovative labs to create solutions and programs tailored to boost national defense and workforce readiness priorities. For example, AU School of Computer and Cyber Sciences, housed at the Georgia Cyber Center, offers undergraduate to doctoral degrees. AU was recently designated as a center of academic excellence in the cyber defense and cyber operations, or cyber ops, by the NSA. This is significant as we are one of only 23 schools in the country to hold cyber ops designation and the only university in the state of Georgia to have both cyber defense and cyber ops designations. Some of Augusta University's computer and cyber science students gain hands-on experience at the University Security Operations Center. It's located within the Cyber Center. They learn to protect critical infrastructure, including the university and its academic medical center, by monitoring, detecting, analyzing, investigating, and responding to cyber threats in real time. This is a very unique education and training ground that we're offering right here in Augusta. And finally, just a week ago, Augusta University proudly launched our first PhD program in intelligence, defense, and cybersecurity policy. Many call it a bold step forward in shaping the future of national security. Building on the foundation of our Master of Arts in Intelligence and Security Studies, this groundbreaking doctoral degree is already attracting strong interest with over 40 students enrolled. I can personally attest to that. We have moved several of our students in the past couple of weeks, and many are coming from all over to study right here in the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center. Augusta is home to Augusta University. It's home to Fort Gordon and the Georgia Cyber Innovation and Training Center, but more importantly, it's home to military and civilian personnel from all branches, veterans, DoD civilian contractors, and all their families who embody a deep sense of dedication and community. It's been one of the most inspiring and service-oriented places I've ever had the privilege of living, and I'm proud to call it home. I believe that I have the opportunity to lead one of the most patriotic universities in our country. I want to sincerely thank each and every one of you for your service, for your contributions, and your unwavering commitment to our nation. TechNet Augusta demonstrates what we can achieve when government, industry, academia, and the military converge with a common purpose. And at AU, we stand with you, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, to accelerate translational research, educate the next generation of leaders in cyber, health informatics, data science, engineering, and translate insight into action. Your work matters, and the standards you set will ripple far beyond this room. Thank you to the organizers and every participant who embodies the belief that we can do more together, and it can be done. Thank you.
Please welcome Paul Fredenberg back to the stage.
Hey, thank you, Dr. Keene, for those remarks. And now I do have the distinct pleasure. I'd like to invite the great mayor of Augusta, the Honorable Garrett Johnson, to the stage to make some opening remarks. So we're very glad to have you here, sir. Please welcome Mayor Johnson to the stage.
Well, good morning, TechNet. Welcome back to the beautiful city of Georgia. This beautiful city of Augusta in the state of Georgia. You look well this morning. Smell well too. I remember last year we had something going on, but I am so proud that we're looking and certainly smelling better. On behalf of this beautiful city, it's truly my honor to welcome you back to TechNet 2025. We're proud to once again host this incredible gathering of leaders, innovators, and problem solvers from across the military, government, industry, and academia. This year's theme, non-kinetic dominance and multi-domain operations, speak to the evolving nature of security and warfare. In an age where battles are often fought in cyberspace rather than on the physical terrain, the work being done here is not just important, it is crucial to our national defense, to the protection of our communities, and to the scrutiny of our way of life. Throughout the next few days, you'll have the opportunity to open lines of communication between the military and the commercial sector, to collaborate on cyber electromagnetic activities, and to share solutions that keep us ahead in a world of rapid technological change. The challenges are significant: uncertain budgets, fast-moving technology, and the need for seamless introspectability. But this group is certainly up to the task. Augusta's home is proud to be the home of the Armored Cyber Command and the Armored Cyber Center of Excellence. Your presence here underscores what we already know. Our city is a hub for cyber innovation and national defense, and we're proud of that. We are committed to supporting that mission, not only just this week, but every day through strong partnerships, workforce development, and infrastructure that enables your success. Thank you for the work that you do to keep our nation secure. Thank you for being here in Augusta to share this expertise and vision for the future. I look forward to the insights, the collaboration, the innovation that will come out of this conference. Welcome to TechNet Augusta 2025, to beautiful Augusta, Georgia, home of the Masters and the home of James Brown. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great week.
Thank you. Please welcome Paul Fredenberg back to the stage.
All right, thank you, Mayor Johnson, for those remarks and the humor. So yeah, we are very thankful that we have no smells here today, this morning. Hey, as mentioned earlier, our events cannot happen without the great support of our industry partners. And I just like to take a moment now to invite one of those partners to the stage, Josh Jackson, who's the Executive Vice President of SAIC's Army Business Group, inviting him to the stage to introduce our next speaker. Please give him a warm round of applause.
Hey, good morning. I think this is my third time at AFCEA TechNet here in Augusta. I'm super glad to be back. Mayor, thanks for hosting this great event. And Paul, you mentioned partnerships. I think all of you mentioned partnerships to some degree and capacity in your remarks. And this event represents a great opportunity to display and add to those partnerships. And as an industry partner with AFCEA as well as to the Army, we're just glad to be here. SAIC, created in 1969 by a nuclear physicist, Bob Beister, he had a vision of creating a company that solved really hard problems that were meaningful to the nation. And today we have 24,000 people that still embrace and embody that vision that he created over 5 decades ago, partnering with the Army and many other organizations across the Defense Department as well as the federal government. It's really who we are as a company. And again, we're just so happy to be here. We are a mission integrator, and we look at it through 3 dimensions of experience, expertise, and ecosystem. And that ecosystem of partners, from emerging venture capital funded companies to legacy companies to industry as well as university partnerships are super important to us so that we can craft the best solution. We don't believe that any one company's got the solution that's going to solve these very hard problems that the Army is tackling. And so we believe that ecosystem and partnership is very, very important. I'm honored here to introduce Major General Ryan Janovic. He is the 42nd Commanding General of the U.S. Army Cyber Center of Excellence and Fort Gordon. I'm going to try to summarize your impressive bio here in a few seconds. West Point grad, military intelligence officer, served in Iraq and Afghanistan and spent some time also in Korea. Most recently, before serving here, the Deputy Commander of Joint Force Headquarters, U.S. Army Cyber Command in support of Central Command, Africa Command, and Northern Command. So a lot going on there for sure. I think General Janovic has touched the pointy end of every place where the Army's network must be effective and efficient and securely connected. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce you, and I look forward to your remarks, sir.
General Lawrence called me last night, and she said, "Hey, Ryan, we've got 3 really, really gifted speakers." She sent Paul, and he laid out everything that we're going to do here in spades and why we're doing it and how we're going to do it. Then the mayor and Dr. Keene, two impressive partners who also encapsulated all that is the power of Augusta. And she said, but I need somebody who will have nothing left to say, but yet has to get up and say a few words. Can you do that? I said, well, ma'am, of course I can. I did that last year. Well, here we are again. And it's great to be back. And I thank you for the opportunity. The introduction, much too kind, because again, what was already said, and by the gentleman who said it, to me typifies what we know to be true about the experience if you've been here before at TechNet Augusta. There is something powerful and unique happening here, whether it's Fort Gordon, downtown, in partnership with industry here locally or across our entire Army. And at no more important time than today, when the demand from the leadership of our Army for transformation in contact, for continuous transformation, these thematic, epic periods of change that we're driving in our Army and not waiting, has a lot of demand on the talent in this room, the talent at Fort Gordon. When you think about, as Paul articulated, cyber, electromagnetic warfare, signal operations, the network, these big areas that our leaders need our Army to get right, all come home somewhere here to Fort Gordon. So to come back together again in this forum and to spend 3 or 4 days talking about requirements, and this is where I was last year in this conversation. I asked, let's not leave here until we've had frank and honest conversations about what our Army needs and how we're going to get there. That's our goal. And the energy of last year promised that, and we had great outcomes. Those outcomes were measured by follow-on discussions and actually articulation of requirements over the past year. We will not be able to rest on those laurels, and we must move forward now together. I join all the thanks that has been offered here today. Mr. Mayor, you never fail to pull energy into this city. And this energy is emblematic of the commitment that you see when you drive by the gates of the fort or you visit the fort, about the commitment that this area has to national security. You know that better than we, and I thank you for it. Dr. Keene, your leadership has long been and will be for a long time in the future central to our partnership in innovating together and moving it forward. So if we get to move around this event together or events like this together, I'm a bit player in a big movie that is the innovative spirit of Augusta, and I'm thankful for it. Paul, to the whole AFCEA team, and to General Lawrence, who did not call me. We do a little bit, and we're happy, and we're thrilled every year to contribute. And Reggie and his team and the whole team of the G3 and the CCOE and across the fort, but what you do and the energy that you bring and what you assemble here is unique and powerful. So to the AFCEA team, to TechNet Augusta, to you in particular, thank you for your partnership and friendship, building this again for this year as we come into it. So it's very, very important to all of us. And I do, if you don't know Reggie Cook, you're going to have to get to know him. He's in the back. I'm staring in the footlights here. He's smiling at me. He wants a day off. I think that's the reason he works so hard at this, but he and his team have done Herculean things. And you know that to be true based on the ease with which you arrived here and the ease with which you'll move through the week. But if you get a chance to see that young Southern gentleman in the back, just thank him. But if you see anybody from the Cyber Center of Excellence, from Fort Gordon, in uniform, visiting from afar, we have a lot of alums who have been here before. If there's something that we're proud of, it's that when the TechNet banner flies up, everyone comes to be a part of it. And in particular, this year, for our part, for CCOE helping arrange this, we're proud of being able to draw some external voice. There are 8 keynotes, there are scores of panels. As Paul mentioned, the app's going to tell you where to be hour by hour, but some of the most notable talent, names, leaders of our Army are coming down to be with us. And we'll have the Principal Cyber Advisor, Mr. Pugh, with us. We'll have Army Futures Command with us. We will have leaders that you know well. Lieutenant General Stanton, Lieutenant General Barrett, Lieutenant General Ray will be throughout the week at different keynotes, and scores of panels with people that you know from times of the past or current work that you're doing. But I want to focus on one person, and he's going to be that officer who kicks off TechNet in a more meaningful way than I am. And his name's Tyler Johnson, and he's a major. Not a major general, he's a major. And he's sent here to represent all the work that's happened and is happening in the 101st over the past year. Right now, he just came from an experiment. He's probably going back to one. But General Gardner said, hey, Ryan, I can't be there. I'd like to be there, but I can't be there. But you and I share a belief. He said, Ryan, you and I share a belief in one thing, that generals don't really have very many good ideas. We might stumble into one or two along the way. Good ideas in our Army come from young leaders. So can I send Major Tyler Johnson down and have him kick off on my behalf? Can I have Tyler represent all that is the 101st and all that are the divisions and corps of our Army who have been dirty and hot and sweaty figuring out what does C2 fix look like? What does the future of our network look like? What do we need in SEMA operations? What don't we have? Where do we need to go? That's the work that he's been doing. And so to have that kick off, the tone and tenor, and have grassroots energy start us off, I think is not only wholly appropriate, but could in fact set a new standard, and I'll never get asked to speak at a conference again. Tyler, if you do really well at this, there's something in it for you. We're proud to have you, and we're proud of who you represent. And I'm very, very thankful that you're willing to take time out of your busy schedule as you travel about our Army, solving problems for the chief and for the secretary. You represent the innovation of our Army. So thank you for being willing to join us today. To everybody here, I go back to where I began last year, and I repeat it again this year. The demands upon us have never been higher for solving technical and tactical problems, for innovating. So let's use these 3 days to talk openly about what that requires of us in partnership, what that requires of us in articulation of requirements, and what that requires of us in 2026. Let's not think about horizons that are well beyond us. What are we going to do to change our Army together coming out of TechNet Augusta? If we don't know that answer come Friday morning, well, we'll have to come back and retrain. And I don't want to retrain. I think we can do it. We did it last year. That standard has been set. Let's meet it. Tyler, I think we get a break. They're going to, I don't know that for sure, but they're going to figure out your walk-up music. I deferred mine to yours. So if you didn't come with anything, you're getting something good, buddy. But thank you for being here. Thanks to the entire team, those assembled, those watching. I look forward to engaging with you throughout the week. And please, if you see people from Fort Gordon, ask them what's going on up there. And if you haven't been up to visit, if you're back in town, please come aboard while you're here and take a look. There's a lot happening there. You know it as well as I do. The future of our Army is being trained up through those gates. Thank you very much.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Major General Janovich, for that warm welcome and no pressure. So it'll be great. But on behalf of, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Major General David Gardner, the Commanding General of the 101st Airborne Division Air Assault, it is a pleasure to be here today to provide the keynote address as I highlight the 101st Airborne Division's efforts to meet the Army Transformation Initiative, which is Transform in Contact. As I begin today, I want to highlight the 3 time horizons of transformation, which most of us already know, but just to make sure we level set the team on where we're going forward. As we look for concept-driven transformation, the Army's capabilities that are needed for the deeper future, 7 years and beyond. Specifically, it allows our Army to dominate the future. In addition to that, understanding the evolving technology that each of us are here this week to talk about, and how it impacts the battlefield of the future. Additionally, the joint integration and the force-based lethality that we provide not only to the joint force, but to our allies and partners across the globe. Additionally, bringing the Army of now to the Army of the future in support of the joint force. As we look to our 2nd time horizon, specifically the deliberate transformation, we see it as the next 2 to 7 years, allows the Army to retain the initiative by providing capabilities that the Army needs within that time horizon. What I'm here to talk about today, though, is the transformation in contact, the final phase, the time horizon, specifically within the next 24 months. With that, this is where the 101st Airborne Division is currently living and leveraging the resources to achieve Army senior leaders' guidance in support of Army Transformation Initiative. We believe you need to find the sharpest blade available and then sharpen it. This means we must get the leading edge capabilities to the warfighter as soon as they show potential, regardless of how mature they may be. In addition to this, we need to validate the integration and to shape the future implementation of these capabilities to enable the warfighter to win the day. Additionally, this is accomplished by integrating an existing technology into an operational unit holistically, not in piecemeal, not in part, but as a whole. And then how do we operate it to make it successful on the battlefield? Within weeks, months, of identifying a problem or a gap, we need to find a solution. Because the hard answer is that the soldier at the front line will be the one that pays the price to identify what that solution may be. So the more we can find it out here, the more you're saving lives and enabling commanders at the front lines at the tactical edge to be successful. Approximately 20 months ago, the Army asked our division and others like us to execute and to lead in this transformation and contact effort. I can speak proudly and say that the 101st Airborne Division is partnering with leaders across the Army and is taking this charge directly and looking to achieve it every single day. So how does TIC different than previous efforts? As we've all been around the Army for quite some time, the bottom line is you cannot put a schedule on innovation. It adjusts, it adapts, it changes. The question is, though, is how does it adapt, and then how do we, as a human operating it, adapt to it to make it more enabled to enable the warfighter at the tactical edge? If you don't mind, please go to the next slide. So for the 101st, we see 4 central themes around transforming contact. We see it as a division-centric fight, no longer the brigade combat team fight that we're used to during the GWAT era. We see it as user-driven, not lab-based. It's how do you get it into the hands of the warfighter, and how can we innovate on it to make it better so when it's early to the time of need, not late, as we've seen in the past. Next is continuous and iterative. Just because we've tested and filled it doesn't mean we stop. We assess it, we learn it, we assess it, and then we validate it. And then we do it again, and we do it again. As you'll see on the slide and as I continue to talk, we do this through Operational Lethal Eagle, which is a 21-day rigorous operation where we put the systems and the personnel in the field for 21 days consecutively to test and assess the systems and capabilities we have. So we can give you real-time feedback on is it operationally effective, or is there gaps, or is there things we need to improve upon to enable the force? And then lastly, we see it as operationally assessed. For this specifically, we see this as an opportunity to integrate new equipment versus the previous net nefs. So instead of just doing new equipment training and new equipment fielding, you get it into the hands of the soldier as soon as possible, and we can provide you that feedback to inform decisions at the higher echelon, but also to enable the industry and the partners to help work with us and to partner with us to find these systems and gaps. So division-centric, what does that mean? More than just a slogan on a slide. The Army warfighting concept calls for a transition away from the brigade echelons as a unit of action, and is now saying the division headquarters with a unit of action within large-scale common operations. It is important to understand with this that the infantry formation, even though I wear an infantry blue cord, is not the only customer within Transform and Contact. There is an entire enterprise across the Army, including the cyber domain and the signal domain, that has to play a critical part in this. And how do we enable them? Currently, to date, we have trained and validated 2 Mobile Brigade combat teams, both the Strike and Bastogne. And we are currently working towards our third, with 3rd Mobile Brigade combat team, Rakissans, which is who I'm a part of. However, we haven't been able to fully train and validate a division headquarters and its enablers in accordance with the future Army structure of 2030. As an example, our ability to enhance aviation, DIVARTY, and sustainment command and signal capabilities with the fielding of integrated tactical network provides a federated network for continuous communication at echelon, at division, and below. We are working currently to laterally transfer and turn within our division to those assets so that we can start communicating. Because right now, as a ground force, as a battalion executive officer, at the operational level, I do not have a direct comms link with the ITN network with my aviators. So as I'm calling in attack aviation, I do not have that link. We are working that personally to figure that out so that can, again, to enable me on the front lines with the infantrymen. However, the good news, the division and its enablers have rapidly transformed in both first and second quarter within FY25. And we achieved an initial operating capacity in IOC as of 16 February of this year. And we are currently on glide path to meet at FOC, fully operational capable division within Army 2030 structure, this coming October. We will be the only division that I'm tracking right now in the United States Army that will have achieved that. And that has been a great feat. During that operation, we've identified over 160 tasks a division and its enablers and its subordinate headquarters have to achieve to fully transform a division to meet the future Army structure. And again, we did that in 12 months. It was no small feat, to be honest. As a fighting division, we identify that one of our 2 critical tasks is combined arms maneuver. Combined arms maneuver is the strength of our Army's ability to conduct combined arms maneuver, bringing multiple resources together at the same time, at the same place, to create an effect. This provides commanders with a marked advantage over potential adversaries across the globe. Specifically, within this room is going to be the convergence of cyber, EW, space at the division level. It is not resident within the brigade combat teams and below. And that's the reason why we need a fighting division across all of our elements to enable that fight at the front lines. User-driven versus lab-based. Primarily here is, again, previously requirements generated the need for a capability were taken to lab and eventually would get out to the soldiers. Unfortunately, after designing and testing majority of it, some of these were costly and late to need at the tactical edge, meaning that technology had already caught up with what we thought we needed, and we'd wasted billions of dollars knowing that we didn't actually need it anymore, and we needed to adjust course again. So a way of doing this is by getting it to us soldiers on the front line, we may potentially save the American taxpayer billions of dollars and wasted time focused on the technology we need now, but also for the future. Continuous and iterative versus episodic and scheduled. No more 50-year buy plans. Equipment fielding must be capable and adaptable, keeping pace with technology on the battlefield, specifically as we've seen in the Ukrainian and Russian conflicts. Elements were not prepared for UAS integration and the how to combat it. The question is how are we as an American Army getting ahead of that and beating our adversaries within this domain? We've collaborated across the entire Army enterprise as the 101st Airborne Division. We are sharing lessons across formations, the Cyber Center of Excellence, as well as the other Center of Excellences, in addition to the Special Operations Forces, conventional divisions, and the Army Future Command entities. This enables an institution of learning and allows the force to focus and test concepts at scale and under load. The rapid, typical modernization for a brigade combat team is scheduled for 8 months within the rearm cycle. However, fielding net and nefs honestly take more time and cost more money. So with this, recently, I can proudly say at Bastogne during JRC 2507, we had demonstrated the Army's ability to rapidly equip units with cutting-edge technology during their rotation. Ahead of their recent rotation at the Joint Readiness Training Center, Bastogne fielded over 1,000 new pieces of equipment to include 201 ISVs and 300 UAS systems during RSOI period. So that means they received new equipment, over 1,000 pieces, within 5 to 7 days of going into the box. So during that time period, they were able to receive, train, and then employ for 10 days consecutively after that. And that shows exactly our rapid ability to deploy elements forward. What's particularly interesting in how we did this was the equipment, how it was required. Much of it was stemmed directly from the individual needs within the brigade, or user-driven, with the division and the broader Army enterprise quickly responding to provide solutions. For example, up to the leading of the month, again, they received all the pieces of equipment and to include enhanced electronic warfare systems, or the TLS Manpack as we know today. It is important because we were able to effectively utilize these tools with minimal training in support of their JRTC rotation, and able to identify its effectiveness, but also the gaps that we identify with employment within that type of operational environment. This rapid fielding and intuitive design reflects a key shift in how the Army approaches technology. The goal is to create systems that are user-friendly as everyday technology. If you think about how easy it is for a person to pick up a smartphone, to include 4- and 5-year-olds today, it is important and it's crucial that we need that extensive instruction. Basstone's feedback during JRTC is crucial, helping to refine these systems and ensure they're truly adaptable for the soldier at the time of need. Finally, a major focus is seamless integration with existing Army networks. This minimizes complexity for the user, reducing the need for multiple systems, and streamlining workflows so soldiers on the mission are not battling the technology. Assessments are operationally focused and integrated versus net and F. When there is a new piece of equipment available, the best thing we can do is to train with the equipment in the most rigorous conditions possible. As previously discussed, for the 101st, these are our Operation Lethal Eagle and our JRTC rotations, where we will test the system, employ the system, potentially break the system, but we identify the gaps in the systems that we need to enable the warfighter. We want soldiers, developers, testers, and working together side by side in our training environments, solving problems in an operational context, not within a lab. Not every unit will require the same capabilities based off their mission set and their tailored formation, but we can all innovate with organizations like yourselves as we continue to navigate this Army initiative. Because the same capability needed for a light division within the 101st Airborne Division may not be the same we need within the 3rd Armored Division, 3rd Infantry Division out at Fort Stewart, Georgia. Next slide, please. As we look at this is going to be a busy slide, and my apologies for that. But the question is how does the 101st Division describe TIC? As I draw your attention to the upper left-hand quadrant, specifically, we have the Heavy Lift Battalion. The 101st Airborne Division will be the only combat aviation brigade in the entire United States Army that will have a Heavy Lift Battalion, providing us an additional lift capacity, enabling our division to assault at a time and a place of our choosing, utilizing large-scale, long-range air assaults. In addition to that, we are going to be the first division that will have 3 mobile brigade combat teams, fully manned and equipped to do its job, to close with and to assault enemy forces. In addition to this, that additional mobility has provided us a unique capability that previously IBCDs have not had, which is the mobile defense, providing the enemy an additional dilemma. As I move to the bottom left-hand quadrant, really for this room is specifically is how have we revamped our network. In previous times, as I'll talk later, we used to have huge server stacks, huge talks. Sometimes we'd call them talk mahals, right? Because they were so big with so many tents. But at the end of the day, that is not survivable on the battlefield in the 21st century and as we go forward. So how do we lower our EMS signature at the command nodes? But at the same time, how do we deceive and confuse the enemy on where we're actually located so that he launches his effects and his artillery in the wrong direction while saving American lives and enabling C2 operations across our area of operations? In the upper right-hand quadrant, you will see lists of different capabilities and systems that the 101st has fielded initially and continues to field to this day. Primarily draw my focus on the UAS proliferation. Again, Bastone just recently tested and employed over 375 different types of UAS systems at JRTC, all the way from SBS to short range to medium range and to long range reconnaissance. In addition to that is the loitering munitions. We have the ability to execute launched effects within the division, and how does it enable the warfighter to identify a HPTL, or a high priority payoff target, for us to utilize our key weapon systems to defeat the enemy and degrade their capabilities. And in the bottom right-hand quadrant is the 2 main things I personally have really focused on is UAS integration and then counter UAS integration. So at the end of the day, we have to, 1, specialize and critique our ability to employ our own UAS systems to enable commanders. But in addition to that, we have to identify how do we defeat the enemy's UAS systems as they come into our airspace. And I think for me personally, that is something as being a battalion executive officer, I am personally concerned about, because I'm the one sitting in that large command post now with about 4 vehicles, a lot smaller than previously, but again, still 4 vehicles where I'll be housed at as I look to help the battle and help the commander. Next slide, please. So this is another busy slide, but again, I promise you there is a story here. So with this, on the left-hand side, you will see that we have 24 through 25. We kind of view this as the year of the Mobile Brigade Combat Team. This is where the Army was injecting a lot of new capabilities and systems into the division, and it was our job to identify and assess how it could be operationally employed to be more lethal, survival, and mobile on the battlefield of the 21st century. On the right-hand side, you'll see 25, 27. The years kind of overlap, right? It's not a clear delineation. And the reason why is because we see this as we start to transition from IOC to FOC, we see this as the year of the division, showing that we are making the break from the old Brigade Combat Team Center focus for LISCO to division fight of the future. So with this, at TIC 1.0 on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll see Strike's unit icon, their battle flag. Resourcing within the existing fiscal year 24 budget, TIC 1.0 efforts transform select brigade combat teams at the small unit level, focusing on experimentation with innovative formations and new equipment. Their primary focus, again, was lethality, mobility, and survivability. Additionally, command and control, or C2, experimentation and innovations were ongoing with select Army and National Guard division headquarters. In fiscal year 24-25, we identified 4 key lines of effort. That was R-Struck 25-29, prototyping of units, C2 fix, and then emerging technology. As we look at the R-Struck, we specifically were identifying as we moved the infantry brigade combat teams down to a smaller formation, previously about 3,500 troops, now roughly to about 1,800 to 1,900 soldiers, primarily focused on infantry brigade combat team, now with just the mobile brigade. We had to make significant moves. That's about 1,700 soldiers we had to maneuver around the division, whether to new COFs, new barracks, and new formations, specifically as we shut down and inactivated some of our units, specifically the BEBs and some of our other elements within, and our CAV squadrons within the brigades. As we look at prototyping units, the ISV, as already stated, provided us a new form of mobility, reducing the load on the soldier, specifically their legs and their back. Maneuvering as a light brigade combat team is no easy feat when you're inserted deep behind enemy lines and you have to move potentially 10 miles to your objective. The ISV provides us that ability to move faster and arrive with the right strength to fight and win the war. For the MFRC and the MPC, those were 2 unique things that our division identified. So as we lost our CAV squadrons, we identified a need and a capability gap for reconnaissance. I know it's been discussed in multiple forums and in different institutions, including higher headquarters. But the significant thing the multifunction reconnaissance company provides is the brigade commander some eyes and ears forward of his battalions. With that, we then identified the MPC, a multi-purpose company. The requirement here was to do a very similar thing but at the battalion level. This provided scouts, mortars, and a launched effects platoon for the company, for the battalion commander, my apologies, to focus on the CPs forward to the FLOT, while the headquarters company commander could focus on the rear area. So these 2 new headquarters were unique as we started to begin and prototype our units. C2 fix, again, looking at specifically R2E, or as I like to call it, the war on excess. At the end of the day, as we had a lot of extra equipment that we were maintaining, costing the American taxpayer millions of dollars a year that we don't operate anymore and we don't need. So our job was to turn it in, identify it, inventory it, and then turn it in so we no longer need to maintain it, cutting the cost down on the Army maintenance. In addition to that, we identified secret but unclassified operating environment. Allowed us to maneuver away from these large server stacks, which required additional cooling requirements, to where now I can operate a main command post out of 4 Humvees and still have all communications all the way up from Maven down to WinTAC to TAC, and then multiple voice communication systems within it. And again, that's in 4 1097 high-back Humvees compared to the previous iterations we used to have. In addition to that is how do we integrate our warfighting functions at scale within this data sphere. Next thing is emerging tech. It is a beast, I'll be honest with you, within the division. Specifically data literacy. So understanding as we get new data and new systems online, how do we train soldiers who are not used to having and operating within this realm to increase data literacy so we actually understand and are knowledgeable what we talk about. I'll be honest, I am still learning that myself, even though I went from division and on down to the brigade level. How am I enabling commanders? So at the end of the day, is I try to bridge, to General Janovich's point, I try to bridge the gap between the operational context and those who specialize, or the SMEs, which is all of you in the room, on the data piece. I can provide you how we fight it. I just need someone to help me understand how do we employ it from your level. And so I think that's the great gap we can identify together. And the last thing we identified was the decoy emitters, something I previously talked about, and I'll go through it later. The ability to put a signature on the battlefield, providing an EMS signature that is similar to our command nodes, can confuse and deceive the enemy, and again, make them launch their attack in the wrong direction, which enables us as a ground force to maneuver on them to a decisive point of our choosing. So with this, as I'll go to the center of the slide, you'll see kind of right below the year of the MBCT, you see a JRTC rotation. personally believe this is where the transition happens. And as you can see, the little yellow box kind of there with it. Basstone's JRC rotation 2507 was the division's first time of employing our IOC division with its enablers at scale. With this, the Chief of Staff of the Army, General Randy George, provided us guidance. We were required to decrement our staffs by 25%. That means brigade staffs were reduced by 29 personnel. Went from 115 down to about 83 personnel within a brigade staff. Additionally, we were required to reduce our battalion staffs by 25%. Went from 53 to 40 people. We were required to retain the MFRC in the MPC headquarters for testing and validation. We were to decrement one of our MFRC human reconnaissance platoons down to 1 and max it at 27 personnel. We were to experiment with 15 and 17 series soldiers at scale, where we retask organized both the Bastogne EW platoon and the Rakisans together to make a 28 personnel platoon and send it to JRTC for testing and assessment on do we have the right composition and disposition to enable the fight of the future. And then finally, we were to identify the rifle company level vehicle density mix. Specifically, is 12 ISVs, 7 ISVUs, and 1 LMTV the right mixture to enable the Mobile Brigade Combat Team of the future? Within that, we were also provided additional guidance, and there's a lengthy white paper out there if you have access to it. It's about 60 pages long that provides all the details and insight that we identified from this rotation. I personally pulled 4 of them, I think, that are very important for this group that I wanted to pull out and to highlight to provide you insight. Specifically, first one, airspace management. It is a critical capability gap that we currently require, especially as the only air assault division in the world. The rapid proliferation of small unmanned aerial systems at the company, battalion, and brigade levels during recent exercises and real-world operations has underscored a critical capability gap. Dedicated personnel for comprehensive SUAS planning and synchronization is vital in the 21st century. We had put 15, for that rotation, we put 15 whiskey personnel all the way down to the company level. The company that had 15 whiskeys and 150 uniforms were able to successfully employ UAS systems at great effect. The battalion that did not have that capability was unable to employ, was as great of effect. They still were to employ, but did not have such a success rate. And so that's the feedback we provided to the Army. With that, additionally, airspace management remains at the brigade level, with the battalion and rifle companies primarily focused on planning and the synchronization of UAS systems through their 15 whiskey population. These SMEs enhance the lower echelon's ability to plan and synchronize operations from the brigade all the way down to the companies at the tactical edge while reducing the cognitive load on other staff. MFRC reconnaissance. As we moved away from our CAV squadrons, we identified again the need for the MFRC. The brigade requires at least one all-weather human reconnaissance capability to sense, protect, and to strike. Bastogne experienced adverse weather and low ceilings during their initial phase of their JRC rotation, which limited their employment of UAS systems and reconnaissance and security platforms. However, the gap was filled, thankfully, by a 1 reconnaissance platoon who remained undetected and able to engage the enemy's HPTL, disrupting the enemy's advance. If we were to lose that 1 element of human reconnaissance, the element would have had no reconnaissance and security capabilities for 6 days straight, which would have given the enemy a marked advantage. And so that's why we recommend retaining of that 1 element. But it has to be coupled with the future of UAS integration, the future LRRs and MRRs. How do we utilize the systems together to provide an effect, again, on the battlefield, enabling commanders? Another thing we identified was the right people skills. I'm an infantry officer by heart. I love what I do. But at the end of the day, we need people skills, specifically an operational data team at the division level, which is going to be we recommended a 11-person team focused on solving software and data challenges for the division. For the Mobile Brigade, it helps address challenges with integration of new technology and software at scale and under load. Currently, the Mobile Brigade is relying on software integration support from PEO C3N, which I've seen the team here today, so thank you again for your support, from AI2C and the Army Software Factory, along with multiple contractors. We believe this is unsustainable at scale, considering evolving and the volume of software at each division is comprised of 2 to 3 Mobile Brigade combat teams. So if you see that, that's 14, on average, about 14 Mobile Brigades across the entire Army. How are we to manage and integrate the data and software? We recommended this ODT team to help enable that at the division level, which cuts down the cost and enables the warfighter to focus on mastering the fundamentals. Software, the COP, the Common Operating Picture. We've identified a gap in the current operational framework as a lack of a unified Common Operating Picture, or COP, that can integrate multiple networks, including SIPR, SBUE, and partnered systems. Bastogne employed a variety of systems such as the Maven, TAC, TAEUS, Impact, AMDWS, AFATADS, Shrike, and Odin, or pretty much as I call it, the entire alphabet. These systems operate in silos and do not provide a coherent COP for commanders to utilize on the battlefield. To address this gap, the implementation of open architecture within the Next Generation Command and Control, or NGC2 principles, potentially within a zero-trust environment, is essential for creating a truly integrated COP. Software currently remains a largely bolt-on action where we have 3 dedicated personnel with an on-the-job familiarization to integrate between ATAC and SBUE Maven. So pretty much we have to swivel chair. And as we've seen at JRTC with Bastogne, when you reduce the staff by 25%, it reduces their ability to, 1, swivel chair, but also 2, to actually manage and maintain the fight forward, giving, again, the enemy a marked advantage against our forces. As we move, excuse me, the identification and employment of potential cross-domain solutions would reduce swivel chair operations and duplicate our staff's efforts. Recently, I just returned on my way down here from Fort Knox, Kentucky, where 3rd Brigade, we were beginning our intensive training cycle. Army Software Factory came out and provided us a new LogStat app that we can actually operate within our ATAC system. Every single day they came out and said, hey, here's a new system, please play with this, and identify it. Again, that user-driven concept. We were able to, by day, provide them feedback. The next morning, they would go update the software, provide us another opportunity to play with it. We'd provide more feedback. They would go back and they would do it again. They would make, again, iterative changes on it within the field. So after about 72 hours, we're able to provide them a recommendation on what we thought the future would look like to enable. By doing that, it provided my S4 the opportunity to reduce the man hours required to manage LogStat. So right now, it took him about 4 or 5 hours as a junior S4. He cut it down to about 10 minutes of aggregating the data that was identified within Maven and ATAC based off this single app. So you think about the additional 4 hours he can dedicate to other future operations instead of worrying about how many classes of supply does a company have. That's the kind of integration we're talking about, and that's the kind of a technology we're looking for. The 101st is at the cutting edge of being data-enabled, specifically PLI, airspace, and the air assault operations via the PZ app. But we still need solutions to be fully data-enabled and streamline the information for commander's action. As we move to the right side and we look at the 25-27, we see this as the year of the division. Following strikes JRTC rotation at 2410, the 101st and the Army Enterprise provided a robust white paper providing lessons learned, importantly identifying the requirement for higher headquarters to enable the Mobile Brigade combat team fight. Later that year, the 101st was tasked with transforming the entire division and subordinate units in the Army 2030 divisional structure. What this meant for us was transforming 3 infantry brigade combat teams to 3 mobile brigade combat teams, establishing a division signal battalion, a division engineer battalion, a DOVARDI, and a division IEW battalion. In addition to that, that required us to inactivate 3 CAV squadrons, 3 brigade engineer battalions, and other echelons subordinate to the brigade combat team. Additionally, we identified the requirement to expand our divisional lines of effort to include, as you see on the slide, master the fundamentals at the top, and then modernizing our installation at the bottom. And the reason for this is because as we identified, we are continuing to learn within the space, but we must maintain our soldier skills at the cutting edge. Whether with or without technology, we have to master the fundamentals so that we can close with and destroy our nation's enemies at a time and a place of our choosing. Next slide, please. Final slide, and it's very busy. But the good news is this. What does this mean to the 101st? Specifically, the division's transformation is the convergence of 6 Army initiatives. All these efforts are integrated into the traditional readiness building training glide path for the division and its downtrace units. Mastering the fundamentals. With the integration of new technology and formations, we must not lose sight that the fact that the soldiers must still be able to conduct basic soldier skills. Shoot, move, communicate, sustain, and survive on the battlefield. Digital transformation. We are more digitally inclined than we realize, and we need to foster that inclination and streamline our processes. Accelerating structure changes. Army structure guidance gets the division to the Army of 2030 design earlier than anticipated. It was supposed to be in 2029. We've done it in 2025. These are the changes that are already being approved and directed by our higher headquarters, and we want to move faster. Additionally, making the IBCT more strategically mobile, optimized for distributed combat, and gaining different types of mass. The MBCT is a critical component to the Air Assault Division of 2030, providing air assault capable vehicles and weapons that arrive at the battlefield ready to close with and destroy our nation's enemies. Fix the network. And capability integration. Fixing the network to the lowest levels under load and at scale, with the equipment hardware we have on hand now to set conditions for our transition to next-gen C2. Integrating emerging technology. as I like to call it, fighting emerging technology. Take emerging technologies and converging them into the operational context. How do we employ these systems at echelon, within each of the brigade combat teams is important. And then the big thing we provide to the American people and to the Joint Force is our L2A2 progression, specifically large-scale, long-range air assaults. The 101st enhanced its TIC lines effort by adding the L2A2 progression, focused on our unique ability to enable the Joint Force and installation support as we transform the installation in accordance with our new division structure. As we look at the accelerating structure changes, to remain dominant, the land force of the battlefields of 2030, the Army is changing the way it organizes, it equips, and it fights. We are shifting to larger formations. After 2 decades of focusing on brigades rotating in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan in the GWAT era, the Army is shifting its organizational focus to larger formations that are more capable of working with our sister services, allies, partners around the globe. As we look at our legacy force, it was more optimized for rotational low-intensity conflict. Brigade combat teams operated independently with enablers already within the formation. Industrial-age systems and processes with independent effects delivery as we managed and maintained limited battle space. The division owns multi-domain effects. Divisions and corps must be able to employ and allocate the growing array of lethal and non-lethal weapons to attack an enemy across all domains. The complexity needs to be accounted for at the division level. When we look at LISCO and the modern battlefield, the complexity that exists must be accounted for at the division level to enable maneuver units to move into a position of advantage and integrate multi-domain effects of EW, cyber, space, and long-range precision fires. The acceleration informs the Army faster. We cannot wait until 26 or 29 to identify the organization and our formations just to figure out what the seams and the gaps are and what improvements are required to inform the Army. Within the C2 fix area, elements that definitely help with people in this room. Specifically, we identified our command posts and the fixing of the network. This goes back to the complexity of the user, reducing the need for multiple systems and streamlining workflows as soldiers can focus on the mission, not battling the technology in their hands. Traditionally, executing combined arms maneuver required a significant large footprint, large and extensive tent cities, dozens of vehicles dedicated to support, and even climate-controlled systems. This enabled and managed a complex of network stovepipe systems to achieve the advantage of truly integrating combined arms. While our adversaries like Russia rely on fires and brute force, we strive to use fires in conjunction with maneuver, retaining the ability to reposition and gain a decisive advantage. And for years, we achieved this through sheer human will. People swivel chairing between systems, and this through sheer and forming ad hoc clusters, essentially creating a network of people rather than relying on a complex digital network requiring large antennas and extensive infrastructure. This demonstrated our commitment to combined arms, but highlighted the need for a more streamlined and efficient approach to the future battlefield. The new Command Post C2 architecture dramatically shrinks our footprint. As previously discussed, my CP now for the battalion talk is now 4 vehicles, 4 1097 Humvees compared to the previous. We have moved away from cumbersome server stacks altogether, reducing the physical presence to just a few vehicles, a simple generator, and a small fabricated tent for brigade combat teams. This isn't just a loss of gear, it's about a brigade command post that's significantly harder to detect, supported by a leaner team empowered by the integrated digital systems we have today. This transformation is driven by the C2 fix, a deliberate effort to break down the stovepipes of the old network and compel integration through cross-banding and domain solutions. We're moving from a fragmented system to a federated system, and ultimately towards a fully integrated future. Historically, the Army functioned as its own telecommunications provider, relying on massive satellite terminals and specialized technicians. Now, leveraging capabilities like the Star Shield, we're utilizing a transporting option that's smaller, consumes significantly less power, and delivers data processing speeds at 2 to 3 times faster than what we're used to operating with. But the real key is simplicity at the tactical edge. Think about using a smartphone. You don't need to be an engineer to operate it, and you certainly don't troubleshoot the internal hardware. You update software, or when necessary, you just replace the device. This is the model we are striving for. Just as a commercial provider like Verizon manages the complex network behind the scenes, the Army needs to reorganize to provide that same level of support, focusing on managing the network structure on the back end, rather than burdening soldiers with hardware repairs and troubleshooting at the front lines. The next generation of C2 isn't about more complex technology to the user. It's about a robust, unseen architecture delivering seamless capability allowing our soldiers to focus on winning the fight. As we look at emerging technology, on the modern battlefield, leveraging artificial intelligence to enhance staff processes, targeting, and information sharing isn't just an advantage, it's an imperative. Today, we are focused on converging UAS systems and AI software in our intelligence and fires architecture to create even more lethal effects. 3 emerging technologies are driving this change across the formations, and they are AI-enabled data collection with the UAS system, advanced electromagnetic spectrum capabilities of sensing, detecting, and defeating threats, and robust counter-UAS systems. The evolution of UAS particularly is striking. Historically, the IBCT operated with a limited number of small and medium UAS, specifically the Raven and the Shadow, often requiring commanders to choose between capabilities, sacrificing communication to enable a kinetic payload, for example. As stated before, modern brigades are fielding increased quantities of UAS and significantly enhanced capabilities, including today the ability to carry 60 and 81 millimeter mortar rounds under a UAS system and often deliver hand grenades at the platoon level while simultaneously providing crucial sensing and reconnaissance capabilities. The 101st Airborne Division is at the forefront, converging hardware, AI-enabled software, and increased lethality by enhancing UAS payloads with microprocessors and intelligent software to improve electromagnetic targeting, accelerate target identification, and enable UAS to directly engage and destroy targets. Beyond the UAS, we're also revolutionizing our electronic warfare. Simple, inexpensive decoy emitters that cost roughly about $100 each. We are already deceiving the enemy, drawing them towards false signals and wasting valuable resources. One recent example, we saw the enemy forces chasing strange SSIDs, believing their equipment was malfunctioning when they found no friendly forces at the locations. Similarly, during a recent NBC defense, the tactical deception masked the true location of the command post, causing the enemy to expend 40% of their Class 5 resources or ammunition on a medical node and not on a C2 node, saving the commander's ability to continue to control the fight. Finally, we're making significant strides in our counter-UAS and EW capabilities, with systems capable of detecting and defeating enemy UAS at various ranges, supporting electromagnetic attack and protection, and even allowing friendly previously lacked organic EW equipment. NBCTs are now fielding integrated systems that dramatically enhance situational awareness and accelerate the kill web development. This isn't just about adding new tools, it's about fundamentally changing how we fight, creating a more adaptable, lethal, and resilient force prepared for the challenges of the 21st century. As you look at the slide here, you'll see across the top, we have our different learning events, as we call them out. So an Army learning event, as we see, that's with the Army Enterprise. How do we collaborate with people like yourselves across the enterprise to enable the Army to learn rapidly? We also have our division learning events. That's what we see as our internal things that we can actually execute at our level with Operation Lethal Eagle and the intensive training cycle. As you see, there is no white space on the calendar for the 101st Airborne Division. If we are not deploying to supportive operations globally, we are still training and trying to identify the gaps that we can solve now to save forces in the future. But across the top right now, we have Strike, which is going to be executing Combined Resolve 2601. It's about a third through the screen from your left-hand side. And then my brigade combat team will execute Operation Lethal Eagle in February, and then again, we'll execute JRTC rotation in April. Again, those are great opportunities for the enterprise. If they want to partner with us, the door is always open from Eagle 6. He's more than welcome to allow to come and test and assess with us, again, as we previously talked about, to operate together hand in hand, both the Army and our enterprise partners. In conclusion, as I look at this, a fighting division that innovates. From General Gardner specifically, the considerations for the only air assault division in the world as we look at how we plan air assaults, our ground tactical plan. Operational reach, coupled with blurring of air and ground integration, specifically launched effects and the proliferation of UAS systems, SBS, SRR, MRR, LRR, and whatever RRR we come up in the future. What level integrates these assets and who owns the battle space they operate in? We are now operating in a congested airspace as we execute L2A2s of 70 manned aircraft across three compos of the Army, and coupled with 300+ friendly UAS systems, not to include what the Red 4 has to provide us. It is an extremely congested airspace that we cannot see. Right now, we are utilizing control measures on the ground to minimize airspace deconfliction. That will not be sustainable in the future. That increases risk for commanders, also risk to force, risk to mission on the battlefield. So we need help achieving this. So we're open to ideas. The landing plan. We concentrate combat power with distributed LZs. Operational reach will increase with us gaining that heavy cab and within the air assault division. Specifically, the cab lift capacity will, coupled with the ability of the assault forces, allows us to land disaggregated across the battlefield, and then provides us with the ISV the ability to reaggregate combat power as needed at a time and place of our choosing to close with and destroy our nation's enemies. Furthermore, our ability to look at this provides the enemy a dilemma. Our air movement plan, A2AD, enemy A2AD, and the decisive first lift. Acknowledging that our potential near peer will have a very highly successful and powerful A2AD denial capabilities, our Lift 1 forces must be capable of massing combat power at the decisive point, tipping the battle in our favor. So what does that mean? At the end of the day, as we move to L2A2, when our first helicopters go on the ground, we must be able to maneuver enough manpower with lethal effects on the ground in that first lift. At that point in time, the enemy will have an opportunity to activate their A2AD assets, which then makes lifts 2 and 3 beyond potentially deadly. So that means that first lift is decisive because it may be the only American combat power we have on the ground. Its ability to close with and destroy the A2AD will then open up the airspace, enabling the flow of combat power and enabling the commander's decision points. The loading plan. Combat power right now needs to be focused on in and on the aircraft, not under. Under the aircraft, doing sling load operations slows our aircraft down. If we can put it inside of the aircraft, including the future vertical lift, it will increase our speed, again, making that decisive first lift important. Because right now, when we execute our Operation Lethal Eagles and we execute our L2A2 to JRC in the box, we travel over 500 miles, including multiple support sites, multiple FARPs, sustainment, and C2 requirements. So we are testing our equipment at scale and under load, as previously discussed, at 500 miles. I believe there's no one else in the United States Army that is doing that right now with their systems. Our staging plan. Our joint and combined arms at L2A2 distances. As previously discussed, 500 miles is our focus. Our forces need to stage out of sanctuary, enabling our air assault operations. We have to set up both light and heavy PZs, enabling us to maneuver extensive and large capabilities within the area of operations. So what are the top 5 needs we need for our division, as we are the most data enabled and the furthest ahead of everybody else? We need and request assistance with integration of unmanned systems with each other and with our C2 at the warfighting functions. Specifically, as we look to integrate UAS systems, how do we transport all the data and information we get, what we can see, but also what we can sense? And so we definitely request some assistance. The common operating picture for the crew to the squad. Right now, as previously discussed, we've got it from the division to the brigade, but how do we enable it from the brigade further down to the lower echelons? Specifically right now, we have ATAC, and we are using as much as we can what vehicles available to us, and right now that's Maven Smart System and the MMC at the brigade and the battalion to provide us some type of digital cop. We still maintain an analog cop within our CPs, but a digital cop would be a lot faster and more maneuverable on the battlefield. Airspace and spectrum management. Airspace, as already discussed, is a huge concern for us with all the capabilities running into it one small area. Within the spectrum management specifically, the 101st tested at JRTC, as previously discussed, up to 9 TLS manpacks with 28 personnel to enable a commander to identify EMS signatures across the battle space. That was not just for us to identify the enemy, it was for us to identify ourselves. How much are we emitting? Are we emitting too much? We have partnered with certain different academia institutions who have came down and provided us some tents for us to test to identify how we minimize our EMS signature. But again, we're still a long way off. We still have some capabilities that are available, but if we're all open to ears and have an opportunity here in the future to test it if you have something. Data integration with minimal transport needs to be shortened decisions and kill chain. There's a significant amount of sensing across the battlefield, both human and technological. But insufficient transport prevents us from being able to analyze the data within a timely manner. So we have so much data, but we just can't transport it back for us to analyze it. So that is something we have to consider as we work across the Army, not just for the division, but for the entire United States Army. How do we enable that for corps commanders and combatant commanders at scale? How do we enable decisions for them? All of the above are recommendations, but to include, do not increase the cognitive burden. We identified during JRTC there was a certain level that company commanders could hold. There was a certain level where their cognitive burden was preventing them from being able to operate independently and close and destroy the enemy. So we have to identify what systems can we develop, how can we employ it, but at the same time not burden our commanders and our non-commissioned officer corps with how to employ it at the tactical edge. Again, I want to thank you for the opportunity to share the 101st story. We look forward to partnering with you as we prepare for our next rendezvous with destiny. I appreciate your time. Air Salt.
Thank you, Major Johnson. We do have time for one question here from the audience. Can you share any thoughts you have on how the 101st balances readiness for large-scale combat operations with the agility needed for distributed multi-domain operations?
So how we manage readiness. So readiness is still naturally the number one priority for our division. The way we do that, though, is that throughout our ITC, we will focus on the readiness as our top priority, with the actual modernization, transfer, and content almost as a second, right? But the unfortunate part, they're almost married together if you think about it. As we are focusing on our operational readiness, how we employ the capabilities have to be married together. So regardless of what it is, we still focus on individual training at the tactical level. But as we move through the ITC, the sooner we can get the systems and capabilities that are from across the enterprise, we can actually employ them earlier. That means we get more time to train on them, identify the gaps and systems we need, and then actually allows us to increase readiness. If not, we have to make a decision. Do we continue to focus on maintaining readiness to enable the Corps commander what he needs, or do we say, no, we need to transfer him a contact? And to be honest, with our current environment, not speaking for Major General Gardner by no means, I believe the answer would probably be focus on readiness first. How do we enable the force today to win the fight while enabling the rest of the Army to continue to focus on the transformation in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. That was our final question for Major Johnson. Please welcome Paul Fredenberg back to the stage.
All right, we got a little bit of music to wake you up here and keep it going. So, hey, thank you, Major Johnson, for kicking off TechNet this year. You outlined very articulately the operational concepts and the priorities that are needed at the tactical edge of our Army. So General Janovic mentioned at the beginning of your presentation that if you did a good job, there would be something in it for you. Well, Major, you have a bright future. And I am absolutely confident that our Army's in good hands because of leaders like you. Ladies and gentlemen, our week was just teed up perfectly. And, you know, he mentioned about getting kit in the hands of our soldiers early and learning rapidly. You are learning from a leader who's in the middle of this transformation, seeing, understanding, and providing feedback directly to our industry partners. Again, we do not go through this alone. You saw on those slides a lot of work that needs to be done and supported by our industry partners. So you heard it here today. So thank you for that. On behalf of, just to show our appreciation, we're going to make a donation to the Signal and Cyber Museum Society on your behalf. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we got a busy morning. Breakout sessions start at 9:30. You can find all those sessions on the mobile app. The exhibit hall is now open, so make sure to schedule some time to visit our companies and organizations that are here with us this week. The next session in this room starts at 11 o'clock, the Ukraine's battlefield, implications for U.S. Army modernization. Please enjoy your morning and the rest of the day. Thank you very much.